Hi, I'm Dr. Divyashree Gangaraju, working as the head of Bioprocess Research Division at IOM Bioworks Private Limited. In today's lecture video, we will be discussing about how consumption of a particular functional food will have an impact on mental well-being. Before we get into the actual topic, let us brief once again about the definition of functional foods. How do they differ from nutraceuticals and dietary supplements? First, let us define what is growth. Growth in biological terms can be defined as increase in cell size and mass, right? In order to achieve this growth or for this growth to happen, say inside a human body, or it could be in other animal cells or plant cells, even in single cell microorganisms like bacteria, the crucial things that are required are the set of nutrients, right? And we acquire these nutrients by consuming a food. Ideally, there are 5 plus 1 nutrients in a food, which includes carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, minerals, and vitamins. So these are the 5 nutrients which are present in the food, and the 6th nutrient can be viewed as a water, even though it doesn't contribute to energy calculation. It acts as a basic medium for most of the vital reaction to occur inside a living cell. Now, these 5 plus 1 nutrients will support body to perform its function properly. We all know carbohydrates. We consume carbohydrates as it contributes for the energy production. We consume protein as it aids in repair and growth. We consume lipids as they aid in cellular processes. Vitamins and minerals are more required for the metabolism. Therefore, as we are acquiring these nutrients through food, food can be viewed as a vehicle as well as a foundation which helps the body to perform its function properly. Due to the present or the raise in the consumer awareness towards the health, there is a shift in asking from is the food fulfilling to the is the food is nutritious enough in order to offer a particular health benefits. So this is where the concept of functional foods come in. Therefore, we have seen in previous videos also, right? In order to call a food as a functional food, it should have, it should fulfill the two criterias, of which the first one is it should provide basic nutritive value. In addition to providing basic nutritive value, the food which is meant to be a functional in nature, it should also provide particular health benefits. And regular consumption of these functional foods will provide protection against chronic disease and condition development. And this concept of functional food is not new to us, and it's been around for more than 2500 years. In fact, the most famous conviction which says let food be the medicine and medicine be the food was put forth by the father of medicine, Hippocrates. And this phrase reflects the ancient understanding of how food can be correlated to a particular disease condition. And he was also a first person to disagree on the diseases were um, caused because of supernatural power or gods or even evil spirits, and he agreed to a fact that the diseases are caused naturally due to some sort of infection in the body or because of imbalance between the bodily fluids. The first country to recognize and impose the concept of functional food is Japan in the mid 1980s. Suppose this recognition between the food and its nutrients and its correlation to the health condition, the Japan government began to fund more of research programs in order to study how the presence of a particular nutrient in a food will influence a particular physiological function. This in turn led to an establishment of a regulatory law or a category in Japan called as FOSHU in the year 1991, which stands for Foods for Specified Health Use. Therefore, any food to be called as a functional food in Japan, it would be scientifically evaluated by Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare in Japan, and then it would be granted to use a Foshu symbol. So this is how the Foshu symbol looks like, which is towards the left. And if the food which claim to be a functional food has passed this rigorous scientific validation process, they can use the FOSHO symbol as a part of their label. Therefore, any food to be called as a functional food, it should have or fulfill two criteria. It should provide basic nutritive value. In addition to providing the basic nutrition, it should also confer a particular health benefits. Like we have universally adapted definition for probiotics and prebiotics, there is no universally adapted definition for functional foods. However, various organizations which work exclusively on functional foods across the globe, they have given their definition of functional foods or their versions of how they define functional foods, of which the most prominent ones are Eat Right Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which was established in the year 1917, headquartered in Chicago, USA. They define functional foods as the food which includes whole foods as well as the modified foods, which will have a beneficial effect on health when consumed as a part of varied diet on regular basis at that effective level. So the second organization which gave the definition of functional food is known as Institute of Food Technologists. With even again, this is a non-profit scientific society which works on a motto of transforming scientific knowledge into innovative solutions, and they define functional food as a foods as well as their food components that are reported to provide health benefits beyond the basic nutrition. The third organization which has given their version of functional food definition is ILSI, which stands for International Life Science Institute, which defines functional foods as the foods that by the virtue of the presence of physiologically active components will offer health benefits beyond basic nutrition. Food and Drug Administration, what we call it as FDA, they do not regulate functional foods, and hence they do not give the definition for the functional foods. The next organization is the Institute of the Medicine, US National Academy of Sciences. They define functional foods as the food that encompasses the potentially healthful products, including any modified foods or the food ingredients that provides health benefits beyond the nutrients it contains. The other organization is known as Functional Food Center, which defines functional foods as a natural food or a processed food that might contain either known quantity of biologically active content or a physiologically active content, which when taken in a defined, effective and non-toxic amount provide a clinically proven health benefits for the prevention as well as the treatment of the chronic diseases. So if you see, these versions of functional foods revolve around the two criteria points which we currently discussed. These functional foods are reported to be functional in nature because they have nutrients which provide energy requirement. The second category of the molecules which contribute to the functional nature of a food is known as non-nutrients. These include phytonutrients such as polyphenols or a prebiotic fibers or a soluble fibers that have ability to affect one or more physiological function. So I hope now it is clear to all of you that the basic food will contain just nutrients which contribute to the energy as well as bodily function. Whereas in case of functional food, in addition to having nutrients, they also have non-nutrients which will have ability to affect one or more physiological function in the human body. All of these we have discussed earlier. However, let me brief you again. These functional foods are categorized into three main categories. One is conventional food, modified food, and the last category is known as food ingredient. What are conventional foods? Conventional foods are the whole foods or the unmodified foods. Examples include whole fruits, apple, grapes, berries, nuts, seeds, dairy products, fish, meats, the purple potatoes. What are purple potatoes? They are purple in nature because they are rich in anthocyanin. We are not modified in order to provide a functional effect. So these foods are called as conventional foods, and they have a category known as unmodified foods because we are not modifying these foods in order to be functional. So examples include whole fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, dairy products, fish, meats. The second category is known as modified foods. Let us discuss of modified foods in the next slide. The third category is the food ingredients. So we all know the functional foods will offer health benefits because they have non-nutrients such as prebiotic fibers, or a polyphenols or other phytonutrients, right? Now, if we make an attempt to isolate these physiologically active compounds or a biologically active compounds and then mark it separately, we call that category of functional food as a food ingredient. Example could be extracting cellulose from apple pomace, extracting pectin from citrus fruits, or extracting resistant starch from potato or corn. So these are the specific physiologically active compound which comes with one or more physiological health benefits. So if we isolate these bioactive compounds from a food, and we call that as a food ingredient. The middle category is known as modified foods, which is further classified into fortified foods, enriched foods, altered foods, as well as enhanced food commodities. Let us see each one of these in detail. The first category is a fortified food. What is fortified food? The fortified foods are the foods wherein the bioactive compound, which is not originally present, is added to a food so that we enhance the nutritive value of the food. I hope I'm clear here. In case of fortification, we are increasing the nutritive value of the food so that it offers one or more physiological function by adding a bioactive compound which is not originally present. Whereas in case of enriched functional foods, we are not adding a nutrient which is not originally present. We are restoring the nutrient which was lost during processing. Example could be, say for example, if we are milling the rice grains into a flour, most of the B vitamins and iron will get lost, right? So in case of enrichment, we are bringing back the nutritive value by adding a nutrient which was lost during processing. How this is different from fortified food? In case of fortification, we are adding a nutrient which is not originally present. However, in case of enriched, we are adding back the nutrient which was lost. The third category is altered food products. In case of altered food products, the bioactive compounds which are reported to be harmful are replaced by the beneficial substances. Example could be fibers replacing fat in a product with a prebiotic fiber. This could happen in ice cream, happen in meat. So these are the few examples of the altered food products. The last category is enhanced food commodities. In case of enhanced food commodities, we are growing a food by cultivating in a special growing conditions so that you're naturally enhancing a particular bioactive compound in order to have a specific health benefits. One such example could be omega-3 fatty acid hex. So what do we do while cultivating chicks or the chicken is that you feed these chicks with a particular food which is rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Now, as when they grow and lay egg, the egg will contain enhanced amount of omega-3 fatty acids. So that could be an example for enhanced commodity. The golden rice. The rice is cultivated or manipulated, genetically manipulated, so that the golden rice granules will have enhanced level of beta carotene, which is a precursor for the production of vitamin A in the body, and the deficiency of vitamin A causes blindness. So this golden rice is another example for enhanced functional food. So I hope most of you would have tasted Minute Maid pulpy orange. Minute Maid pulpy orange is an example for conventional food, but this is fortified with calcium and vitamin. Therefore, it comes under a category of modified functional food, and regular consumption of this will contribute to better bone health, thereby preventing osteoporosis. We have safflower oats as an example for natural functional food or an unmodified or a conventional functional food, and the bioactive compound present in oats is beta glucan, which has ability to reduce cholesterol level, thereby reducing the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Milk can be viewed as a natural functional food as it contains useful amount of proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. We have omega-3 containing eggs comes under the category of enhanced commodities. We have fortified foods. As you see, the milk is being fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D, which is not originally present in the milk. fortified non-dairy yogurt, wherein non-dairy meaning you're not using conventional cow milk or a buffalo milk to make yogurt. Instead, you are using plant-based milk such as almond milk, yogurt milk, almond milk, soya milk, uh, or other moringa milk in order to make non-dairy yogurt, which might further be fortified in order to enhance its nutritive value. We have fortified wheat flour. This is an example from Ashirwad company where they have fortified with folic acid, iron, and vitamin B12. Now, the second category is nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals are the combination of nutrients in a form of a pharmaceutical form, which could be capsules, tablets, or even powders. So what we do in nutraceutical is that the bioactive compound which is present in the food is isolated and marketed in a form of capsule, tablets, and powders. These examples include vitamins, minerals, amino acid mixtures, or other bioactive compounds, and they are often available over the counter and can also be considered as a dietary supplement. This is an example of a nutraceutical, that is lycopene. Lycopene is from tomato, right? Tomato can be considered as an unmodified functional food. And if we extract lycopene, which is a bioactive compound from tomato, and then sell it in a form of capsule or a tablet, we get nutraceutical brand to it. And lycopene comes with antioxidant property, thereby it supports skin and hair health property. The next we have omega-3 fatty acid. Example is DHA. As you see, this is from the vegan source, meaning it is not derived from fatty fish, it is derived from algae. And the people who wanted the non-animal source DHA, we can rely on algal derived DHA capsules in order to have better cognitive ability. Unlike functional foods, which are not regulated by FDA, the nutraceuticals in the United States of America are given a label called dietary supplements, and the regulating body is Food and Drug Administration. In case of Europe, these are given a label food supplements, and they are regulated by EFSA, which stands for European Food Safety Authority. In India, they are regulated by FSSAI, which stands for Food Safety and Standards Act India, and given a label foods for special dietary use. In Japan, they are given a label FOSHU, regulated under Japan Health and Nutrition Food Association. In China, it is called Health Foods, and they are regulated by State Food and Drug Administration. Dietary supplements, these are the products which are intended to supplement the diet with one or more dietary ingredients. Even like nutraceuticals, they come in various forms, which includes pills, capsules, tablets, even liquids and powders. They are regulated differently in various countries, but they are meant to fill the nutritional gaps, enhance health, or provide specific nutrients that may be lacking in an individual diet. But we should also make a note that these dietary supplements are just used to supplement your diet, but they cannot replace the balanced diet. So these are the few examples of the dietary supplements. Like you see, here we have calcium and vitamin D, which can promote better bone health. We have multivitamin capsules to promote overall well-being in humans. Now let us see how regular consumption of a functional food will contribute to better mental health. Let me explain you by taking a specific example of a disease called Alzheimer's disease. Even till today, it's one of the most prevalent cause of dementia worldwide. It is considered as a chronic neurodegenerative disease. This disease is basically characterized by the formation of intracellular neurofibrillary tangles. As you can see in the center part of the slide, you have a formation of NFT, what we call it as neurofibrillary tangles, in the intracellular space of the neurons. And in the extracellular space, that is the space between the two neurons, you have amyloid plaques. Now let us see how amyloid plaques are being accumulated in the extracellular space. There is a protein called APP, which stands for amyloid precursor protein, which is transmembrane located in the neuronal cell membranes. Now, this protein, which is located in the transmembrane of the neuronal cells, will get processed due to normal cellular process. Now let us see how this APP will get processed in case of normal cellular process. In case of normal cellular process, it gets processed by the enzyme called alpha secretase, which aids in the release of soluble APP alpha subunit, and then you have a membrane bound C83 domain. This C83 domain will further get cleaved by gamma secretase and aids in the release of P3 fragment. Each of these subunits will have one or the other function. As I said, this APP is a multifunctional protein which contributes to neuronal development, synaptic signaling, as well as the products might confer neuroprotective effect. This is how the APP protein, which is transmembrane localized, will get cleaved as a part of normal cellular process. But when the gene which codes for beta secretase enzyme is upregulated, it takes a pathway known as amyloid plaque formation pathway. If the APP processing takes a myeloid plaque formation pathway, it gets cleaved by beta secretase enzyme, which aids in the release of soluble APP beta subunit and a membrane-bound C99 subunit. This membrane-bound C99 subunit will further get cleaved by gamma secretase and aids in the release of amyloid beta peptides, which further aggregate to form amyloid plaques, which is localized in an extracellular space, that is the space between two neurons. Now, once these amyloid beta plaques are formed in an extracellular space, this in turn initiates a series of cascade reactions and affects a tau protein. Now, what is this tau protein? This tau protein is a protein which is bound to a microtubule present in a neuronal cell. The main function of the tau protein is to contribute to a structural integrity of a microtubule so that it performs its action, and the main action of the microtubule is to aid in the transport of the cellular materials within the neuronal cell. Now, for the association to happen between the tau protein and the microtubule, this tau protein should get phosphorylated. What is phosphorylation? It's a process of adding the phosphate group to a protein by an enzyme called kinase. Am I clear? For the association between tau protein to a microtubule, this tau protein should get phosphorylated. If it is getting phosphorylated at the required site, it, it gets associated with the microtubule and thereby aiding microtubule to perform its action properly. However, because there is an formation of an amyloid plaque which is being formed via APP amyloid precursor protein, which is transmembrane located taken amyloid precursor pathway, this tau protein, which should get phosphorylated at a specific site, will get hyperphosphorylated. What is hyperphosphorylated? It's a process of adding too many phosphate groups by a kinase enzyme, because of which what happens? It gets detached from a microtubule and then forms an aggregate, what we call it as neurofibrillary tangles. And this neurofibrillary tangles gets accumulated within a neuronal cell. The picture, as you see, you have amyloid plaques in the extracellular space and neurofibrillary tangles in the intracellular space. Now, this formation of neurofibrillary tangle will have an effect on a receptor called NMDAR, which gets overexpressed in case of Alzheimer's disease. Now, this overexpression of an NMDAR will result in a more influx of calcium ions and then creates an imbalance, results in acidification, and then results in neuronal cell death. Because there's a neuronal cell death, there are also death of the neurons which contribute to the production of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter which contributes to better memory and cognitive function. These Alzheimer patients will also be deficient with a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Now, if you see the class of drugs which are prescribed for Alzheimer's disease, majorly there are two classes. The first class is known as ACHE inhibitors. ACHE inhibitors are acetylcholine esterase inhibitor. The second class of drug is known as NMDA antagonist. As I said, the formation of amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles will result in the hyperactivation of these receptors. The receptors are called NMDA receptors. Therefore, the drugs which are used for Alzheimer's disease are called as NMDA antagonist. Now let us see how ACHE inhibitors work. Acetylcholine esterase inhibitor. Before we discuss about acetylcholine esterase inhibitors, let us discuss about how acetylcholine is being formed. Acetylcholine, as I said, it's a neurotransmitter, gets formed with the help of two precursors called acetyl-CoA and choline. Now, it gets synthesized in a synaptic vesicle and get released into a synaptic cleft where it binds to its receptors. Now, upon binding, it performs its action and then dissociates into choline and acetate, and the choline again enters the neuron, contributes to the production of fresh acetylcholine. Because there's a loss of acetylcholine producing neurons, these Alzheimer's disease patients, they would be deficient with acetylcholine in the synaptic cleft. What is synaptic cleft? The space between the two neurons. Now, because of which, what we have to do, the class of drugs which are used to treat AD patients are called as acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. You are inhibiting the action of acetylcholine esterase so that there is no dissociation of acetylcholine into choline and acetate. Therefore, you maintaining better acetylcholine concentration in the synaptic cleft. So this is how the first class of drug works. The second class of drugs are known as NMDAR, what is called as N-methyl D-aspartate receptors antagonist. So this is the receptor which gets overactivated or hyperactivated during the progression of Alzheimer's disease. The sites for binding of this receptor contains for glutamate and glycine. Glutamate is also can be viewed as an excitatory neurotransmitter. The binding of these glutamate and glycine to its receptor will hyperactivate this receptor, thereby contributing to more of calcium influx into the neuronal cells, contributing to inflammation and neuronal cell death. Therefore, the second class of drugs work as an antagonist to these receptors. Due to the limited medical therapeutics and harsh side effects of the current class of drugs, there is a need uh, or a requirement for an alternative preventive and dietary approaches that can restrain the manifestations as well as the progression of Alzheimer's disease. There are also the growing body of evidence which suggests that the good intake of fatty fish, as they are rich in PUFA, what we call it as poly unsaturated fatty acids, have been associated with the reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. Now, how the consumption of fatty fish, which is rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, contribute to the reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease is explained in this slide. As you can see, you know how amyloid beta formation happens, right, via amylogenic pathway. This fatty fish is known to modulate amyloid beta biogenesis pathway, contributing to both non-amylogenic pathway as well as amyloidogenic pathway. So what it does, it upregulates the production of alpha secretase enzyme and downregulates the production of beta secretase enzyme. When it upregulates alpha secretase, you get more of protective effect, right? It results in the release of P3 enzyme, P3 subunit. And if the pathway is taken amyloidogenic pathway, what it does, it downregulates the production of beta secretase enzyme, because of which there won't be much of amyloid beta peptide, which contribute to amyloid beta plague in the extracellular space, which initiates the formation of neurofibrillary tangles. So the same summary is given in this slide, how the regular consumption of a fatty fish due to the presence of polyunsaturated fatty acids contribute to the better processing of amyloid precursor protein, thereby reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Thank you.